This is Super Yacht News with E. Sisman.
Hi, welcome back to the channel. So the news never stops these days, and we are following a developing story, it seems, about the movements of motor yacht Dilbar and the reasons why they're moving. So you probably already know, if you watched my previous video, that Dilbar left the Elbe 17 dry dock facility in Hamburg in the early hours of the 20th of September, 0100 hours approximately. In the cloak of darkness, the vessel was towed out of that dry dock. The vessel was a dead ship, and it was towed to the Lürsen's other facility in Bremen. Official line from Lürsen is that they need the dry dock because it's been in there since the owner was sanctioned in March, and that's fair enough, right? You know, it's a working facility. They haven't been able to use that dry dock for 6 months now. However, some things have come to light which kind of puts a bit of a shadow on this story and the reason why the vessel's moving. We're just going to go back a little bit to bring you up to date. So we have a timeline. So the 3rd of March, Mr Usmanov is sanctioned, one of the first Russians to be sanctioned after the invasion of Ukraine, which was the 24th of February. So as a result of this, the vessel's in that dry dock, and as a result of this, everybody downs tools. Nobody can work on the vessel in Lürsen. All of the crew are laid off because the management companies have to stop working for the owner, and that a knock-on effect happens with every company that's involved there. So the vessel is now cocooned in this dry dock with a tarpaulin over it, and it sits there for 6 months. So the 8th of April, his sister, who was connected to him via as many as 27 Swiss bank accounts, is also sanctioned. His sister's name is Ms. Usmanov. I'll put her full name on the screen. I'm not even going to try and pronounce the first part. It's an Uzbek name, and I don't know how to pronounce that. So she's sanctioned on the 8th of April. And they, like I said, they found many Swiss bank accounts in her name, up to 27 bank accounts, and she gets put on the sanctions list. On the same day, also sanctioned, his other sister, whose name is Zadat Nazieva. So I probably destroyed that name. I apologize if I did. So that's on the 8th of April, right? So on the 13th of April, the BKA, which is like Germany's FBI, they finally established who is the owner of motor yacht Dilbar. And so it's from the 3rd of March until the 13th of April, it took them to figure out who owns that vessel. That's how well it was hidden. And they said that through a series of trusts and offshore accounts, they finally traced it back to his sister, Ms. Usmanov. So she is listed on paper as the owner of the 156 meter or 511 foot super yacht. Now, I think we all really know who owns the vessel. I mean, I've worked with people who worked on Dilbar, and there's no misunderstanding there about who owns the vessel, but on paper, it's his sister. So on the 4th of May, Mr. Usmanov and his two sisters separately file appeals against the sanctions, saying that they're, infringing on his human rights, etc. like that. And those appeals are promptly dismissed. We fast forward to September. On the 14th of September, Mr. Usmanov's sister, Nazieva, she's not the one that's registered as owning Dilbar, she's the other sister. She is removed from the sanctions list. As you can see on the screen here, you can see it says that her information has been deleted. In other words, she's been removed from the sanctions list. So that's on the 14th of September. Now, 5 days later, on the 20th of September, or 6 days later, Dilbar is moved from the dry dock to Bremen. If he has added his sister as the owner on paper of motor yacht Dilbar, and the sister who's listed as the owner is still sanctioned, but his other sister is no longer sanctioned, how difficult do you think it would be for him to change the name on the ownership papers from one sister to another? I mean, he added his sister as the owner in the first place. Wouldn't be very difficult for him to change that ownership to the now non-sanctioned sister. So that's something that could be happening here, that the vessel's been moved from Hamburg because it's in a very high profile sort of position, right opposite offices of many journalists and stuff like that, and now it's gone to Bremen. So is it because they are going to start to work on the vessel again? Also, some of the yacht spotters in Germany have suggested that work has continued on the vessel even though the vessel's been under sanctions. Now, we can't confirm whether that's the case or not. There's some talk online of the top deck having some changes made to it. Now, we couldn't see any difference and we couldn't confirm that. So if we look into the ownership, who is registered with the IMO, the International Maritime Organization, as the owner of the vessel, it comes back to a company called Nevis Marine Limited. This is on the IMO database, and it says nationality of registration is the Cayman Islands, and it says address, care of Lersen Yacht Management GmbH, and then it's got the address in Germany, in Bremen, in Germany. So yeah, Lersen have their own yacht management company. So obviously it's technically a different company than Lersen the shipyard, but they're clearly owned by the same people, right? So we went to Lersen and asked them why the vessel has been moved. Is there any truth to the ownership of the vessel? And we said to the Lersen that, you know, you being the registered address of the owner, you clearly know who the owner is. And I'm sure that when you get information sent to you about what work needs to be done on that vessel, I'm sure it's not coming from his sister. So anyway, Lersen came back to us with a statement, and they said, and this is verbatim, they said, "Thank you for your inquiry. We relocate Dilbar, which was located in our dock Ep132 in Hamburg. Dock Ep132 is urgently needed by us for other projects and must therefore be made available again in a timely manner. All our activities are fully in line with European sanctions law, and we continue to work closely with the relevant authorities. We kindly ask for your understanding that we cannot comment further on this issue for reasons of confidentiality." So what's interesting in that statement is what they say about being fully in line with European sanctions law. Now, if Mr Usmanov changes the ownership of Dilbar from one sister to another, that technically means that the vessel is now free to move, free to have work carried out on it. So that's a very interesting line there, and they were a bit vague there, weren't they? Anyway, we're continuing to follow this story, and we'll bring you updates when we have more. So if you have any information about this story, please get in touch. Okay, we'll move on to the next story now. We got a little update about Eleanora E. A lot of comments in the last video about how awful that vessel looked. I mean, technically, most of the vessel is just covered in mud, so that would clean off quite easily, I think. Obviously, the big hole in the side is not a simple fix. But one of the things that we commented on yesterday is that we couldn't figure out how the vessel was floating or appeared to be floating on the surface. And we asked for any ideas that people might have. Now, lots of people said they closed the watertight bulkheads and they pumped out the water. Now, when the vessel was hit by that search and rescue vessel, it took 30 minutes to sink. Now, one of the first things, the crew on board, it was fully crewed, they would have closed all of those watertight bulkheads, and that didn't stop the vessel from sinking. But we received some photographs, some more photographs today from another person, and we can now see what has been done. However, coincidentally, there was a comment on the last video, and I'll read that comment out because I think this is quite interesting. And he said, "I am a salvage diver. The first job to recover a vessel is to lift to the surface with airbags. Second job is to patch the hole internally or externally with any means possible, and then pump out the remaining water so the vessel can float on its own. Then tow it to a suitable facility to lift out of the water. Likely in this situation, divers have patched it internally and then cranes held it while the water was pumped out inside to give positive buoyancy." So now if you look at the photographs that we received, you can see we couldn't see this in the photographs last time, but you can see that there is actually something in place there holding something inside the vessel, and that's clearly what they've done to patch that vessel and to get it to float again. So yeah, so there you go. So that mystery has been solved. what's interesting is now that the vessel's floating, I'm pretty certain this vessel can be repaired. I mean, I'm just going by what I see. I've no expertise in this area, but I think that probably can be repaired. I hope it will be. It would be great to see that vessel back at sea at some time in the future. Thanks very much for watching anyway. If you've got any information about any of the stories, please get in touch through the normal fashions. You can get us through the About page on YouTube, you can get us through Instagram, Facebook Messenger, and you can get us on Threema. Please be sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell for future notification. All right, thanks very much. Bye-bye.